Drayden's screams and any sounds of movement outside faded after a few more minutes. Corey threw a sheet over the dead ranger and wheeled his body into a back room. Tobias and I kept the guns trained on Kurt, while Shane made sure both cabin entrances were secure. Gabby, who I learned was a nurse, found a first aid kit for Claire, who regained consciousness. "I cut them," Kurt said nonchalantly, after he noticed Shane and Corey trying the phone lines and internet. "I'm trying to keep this as quiet as possible. You're all struggling to realize that." "Fuck are you talking about?" Tobias asked after a brief pause. Kurt took a deep breath and exhaled slowly. "The people I work for." "Wheeljagan," Claire said, unexpectedly waking up alongside us and staring menacingly at Kurt. "He works for a group called Wheeljagan." Kurt was silent for a few seconds before awkwardly nodding to confirm Claire's comments. "Who are they?" Tobias asked sternly. Kurt smirked. "They'll keep this quiet if you prevent me from doing it." "Who are they?" I repeated demandingly. Tobias had to ask him a third time before he finally responded. "They're a hunting club." "Elaborate," Tobias barked. Sighing, Kurt slowly hung his head, clearly apprehensive about revealing this information. "They're a special kind of hunting club, a very, very unique, exclusive, secretive one." That sly smirk returned to his face. "The group was supposedly founded in Germany sometime in the 30s. They breed and raise humans to be completely feral, primal, with predatory animalistic instincts. They pump them with steroids, hormones, and other chemicals to manipulate their maturation rates, physical growth, bodily senses, their brain development." Our jaws dropped as we exchanged perturbed glances, all of us clearly unsure how to respond. "Why?" Shane, who migrated over to us with Corey and Gabby, asked. "Think about it. For these elitist big game hunters who've bagged every conceivable trophy out there, what better feat to pursue than an apex predator of their own kind, one that's smart and strong enough to hunt you back? It's the ultimate challenge for them, one they'll pay top dollar for." Kurt nodded towards the door. "They're simply called Untamed. Those things outside that we're hiding from. They're Wheeljagan's creations. They breed and raise them in controlled, cordoned-off environments where they spend their days killing before being killed." "Those things out there, they're humans? Actual human beings?" Tobias asked excitedly, his grip tightening on the rifle. Kurt shrugged. "Genetically, just as human as you and I." "And this is the group you're loyal to?" Gabby asked. "I'm loyal to circumstance," Kurt quickly replied. "I'm loyal to the moment." Kurt confirmed that Wheeljagan did indeed have a compound in this national forest. He said when Claire infiltrated the property, she entered through the hunting grounds and left an opening in the fence large enough for 5 Untamed to escape through, before it was discovered. Kurt and another mercenary, the man Devin and I found earlier, were tasked with eliminating the escaped Untamed. They disguised themselves as game wardens so they could roam about more freely, and despite being able to track them pretty handily, only killed just 1 of the 5. Claire confronted Kurt about selling her baby to him 7 years ago, who said he remembered the exchange. To Claire's infuriation, he was very dismissive about the ordeal and returned to scrutinizing us for sabotaging his plans. "I was gonna focus on the Untamed first, then deal with you guys after," Kurt said when explaining why he held Claire and I captive. "One problem at a time. The other guy was dead weight, but his dumbass getting killed forced me to do everything myself. He didn't know what he was getting into. And not for nothing, if you guys didn't fuck with my bait station, your one friend would probably still be alive. You just made things worse by freeing him." "You were using him as bait!" Corey snapped, stepping towards Kurt before Tobias held out his arm to keep him from advancing. "Like I'd actually let him die," Kurt replied pompously, rolling his eyes. "I'm a fucking marksman, bro. I would have picked those motherfuckers off before they got anywhere near him. but you all decided to fuck it up." "What happened to her?" Claire asked in regard to her daughter. Kurt scoffed at the question. "Well, am I supposed to know? That was 7 years ago. I don't even do that kind of work anymore, getting new specimens." Kurt exclaimed, acting like Claire's question wasted his time. "If what you saw outside is any indication, she is probably all fucked up, like they are by now, assuming she hasn't already been bagged by a client. And what are you gonna do even if you find her? Recondition her to be normal when she never was in the first place?" Gabby and I had to restrain Claire, who tried charging at Kurt. "I'm sorry, but that's what happens when you stick your nose where you're not supposed to," Kurt said arrogantly, his cocky smirk only making Claire irate her. "We had nothing to do with this," Corey angrily shouted. "We were doing our Bigfoot show. We were minding our own business. We got pulled into this unknowingly." Kurt burst out laughing. "Well, now you know there are scarier and realer things in the woods to watch out for." "Take me to the compound," Claire demanded, freeing herself from mine and Gabby's grips as she stomped towards Kurt. "I know that's where she is. It took years, but I'm getting answers now, and I'm not leaving here without her." Pulling out a knife she had concealed on her person, Claire pressed it against Kurt's neck. "And so help me if you people hurt her in any way, I'll start with you," she grumbled, the blade breaking skin on Kurt's neck and drawing blood. A few of us reminded Claire it wasn't possible to go anywhere right now with the Untamed lurking outside, but she ignored our remarks, keeping completely focused on Kurt. Gabby tried urging Claire that he wasn't going anywhere and would answer to authorities when he got arrested, which caused Kurt, who seemed amused by Claire's aggressive actions, to chuckle. "Tell you what," Kurt said, "I'll bring you if we get out of this alive, so figure something out." Claire pressed the knife harder against Kurt's neck, while Gabby and Tobias begged her to stop. "Just ignore him," Gabby pleaded, clearly afraid Claire might do something impetuous. "I know he's a bad man, but you'll be right back where you started if you do anything to him," Tobias added. "We've got things under control right now." "Listen to them, Claire," Corey chimed in, locking his hands together and making a begging gesture. Claire didn't budge until the sounds of glass shattering came from upstairs, followed by thumping footsteps of more than one individual that moved in different directions. "They were getting in sooner or later," Kurt said softly as Claire eased up on the knife against his neck. "They're smarter, craftier, and more cunning than they appear. Don't underestimate them. This is practically an art form for them. They kill things just to killing things." While trying to track the footsteps overhead, everyone formed a tight circle around Kurt and Claire. 3 thunderous bangs jolted the front door, followed by a deep grating roar-like scream that completely occupied our attention. Dropping from the catwalk directly above us was the child-sized Untamed. It landed on Shane's shoulders, similarly to how the other female jumped on Braden, hooked one of her arms around his neck, and began furiously goring him with a sharpened stick. Chaos ensued in response, during which the female Untamed that attacked Braden rushed down the stairs, blindly swinging her sharpened clawed fingernails. "Shoot it!" I heard Corey yell at Tobias, who stood near Shane. Shane's frantic shrieks and cries filled the room as blood spilled and spurted from his face and neck. Although shaking, Tobias nervously raised the rifle, looking like he was trying to set his aim as he loaded a round into the chamber, while Corey and Claire repeatedly screamed for him to shoot. In what felt like the blink of an eye, the child-sized Untamed jumped off Shane right before Tobias fired the rifle. Shane's entire jaw and right side of his face exploded in a plume of red mist from the shot, causing Gabby and I to start screaming hysterically as his body dropped to the floor. Tobias was in an absolute shock, preventing him from noticing the adult female Untamed, which tackled him and started fiercely slashing at his face and arms. At this moment, I realized the revolver was no longer in my possession. Panic set in, when I maniacally scanned my surroundings as Tobias desperately cried for help and Gabby screamed incoherently in the background. I spotted it near the front door, but Claire scooped up the gun first and didn't hesitate to empty its remaining rounds into the Untamed on top of Tobias. Her thick crock of hair made it hard to see if and where any of Claire's shots hit, but the Untamed stiffened posture and its slowly falling over indisputably confirmed it was dead. "That's how you get them off someone," I heard Claire whisper, clearly referring to Tobias' fatal mishap on Shane. Claire and I got Tobias back up, who suffered some serious wounds. The worst was a deep gash across his face that split open his nostril, gums, and side of his lip, which dangled off the edge of his mouth. "Where's Kurt?" Corey asked, whose question made me freeze. Kurt was gone. Gabby pointed out he left through the back way, which was now slightly ajar and viewable from where we stood. Another rattling thud jolted the front door, which started to splinter. Unconfident the barricades would hold, we hurried towards the back door, during which we heard 3 more bashes come from the front. We managed to get outside before the front door finally broke down, and the large alpha male entered. Outside, however, the child-sized Untamed stood between us and Claire, who was trembling uncontrollably. From where we stood, I noticed more details about the tinier female Untamed, namely its deformed right arm, resembling 2 sausage links or an hourglass. A small section of her central right forearm became abnormally narrow, with any part beyond that point appeared completely limp and covered with patches of grey, brownish, purple discoloration. The non-functional hand's short, chubby appendages, however, did have what looked like different-sized hooks and nails embedded in their stumps in lieu of fingertips. A flash caught my eye when the Untamed shrugged its shoulder while slightly turning her arm in our direction. My blood ran cold. I now understood why Claire, who stood quivering with tears rolling down her cheeks, was so emotionally paralyzed. The flash that caught my eye was a pink heart-shaped charm. It dangled from a thin gold bracelet that made up the narrowed area of her disfigured forearm. The most disturbing detail was how the bracelets appeared permanently embedded in her skin, whose arm apparently grew around the band, causing the malformation. Reminding myself she was a little girl, I whispered a soft "No" under my breath when I put everything together. This was Claire's daughter. She found her daughter.